Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Wuckert Jr., and this is the CoinGeek weekly live stream. And every time I say the name right without a stutter, I get a little bonus from Calvin, who pays me directly. I'm just kidding. So we've got a bunch of stuff going on. I'm going to tell everybody ahead of time there is a live hearing in the Kleiman Wright case going on right now. And if you think it's going to be more interesting than the live stream, then you are a terrible human being. And I want you to leave right now. You're not welcome to watch the stream any longer unless you pay me. We will put this behind a paywall if too many people drop off of the stream live. But if you find it so necessary to go listen to a bunch of lawyers and judges talk about Craig Wright and Ira Kleiman in a status hearing, no less, that is going on right now, if you want to go watch that. But I'm missing it on purpose to spend my afternoon with you, and I would appreciate your full and undivided attention, because today we're going to be talking to, I don't know if it's fair to say a dear old friend of mine, because I don't know how old of friends we are compared to all the other people in our lives, but Daniel is somebody who I respect immensely. He's a person whose views on Bitcoin very much influenced my own, especially in the early days. In fact, reading his stuff from back in the day, back when he was a Mises fellow, were some of the things that inspired me about my view of money itself. This is even going to maybe even before Bitcoin. So I don't remember exactly. I should, since I take the title of a historian around here. So I should probably get my facts straight before I run my mouth. But nonetheless, Daniel Krawisz, the emperor of Bitcoin, the great stag, the blue deer, as people will often say on social media, is going to be on the show here to listen to your questions. So should you have any questions for the emperor, please get them queued up. Please get them ready. But he has brought his own notes. We're going to be discussing some of the stuff that he and I talk about privately on the regular. I also should probably call out, Daniel has a Twitch stream where he plays video games and talks about all kinds of really cool stuff too. So you should definitely check out Daniel's Twitch streams. I am an occasional guest. We've kind of had a ongoing, probably for the last 3 months now, we've been trying to get our schedules to align to have a public conversation. So I'm super excited for everyone to hear this conversation. It's going to be everything from proof of work, signal theory stuff, kind of the stuff you'd expect from Daniel, but I'm going to do my best to suss out some stuff that maybe you haven't heard from either him or myself recently. But I want to point out a couple of things before we go that direction. First of all, the price of BSV at the moment, well, my price feed's not loading. Looks like we're at $373, which is, about what we'd expect it to be at this point, given the way the week's been. We've seen a lot of really weird volatility across the market. If you look at the wicks on everything, we get really big purchases and then really big dips. And I'm not exactly sure what that indicates, but what I think it indicates is that people are showing up, they're buying BSV with their real money because they're interested in BSV. And I think it's causing some minor liquidation of the margin shorts, because there's a ton of margin shorts open on BSV across the market. So it's causing like micro short squeezes, basically, which is creating these like really quick candles that just come right back to the mean again. So there's some interesting stuff going on, and I don't know. I think we're starting to really see an increasing number of people interested in BSV, both for the simple trader economic opportunity. It's quote unquote alt season, and we're seeing some of that, but we're also having some bigger conversations with an increasing number of people who, when they join any shitcoin economy, they get to play the pump, then they see the dump, and then they exit. But every time somebody comes to look at BSV, you start to say, well, hey, here's my Twitch invitation, and you should follow me on all of these different platforms here. Come check out. You should join Tonic Pow. Oh, you're an influencer. You could be making a lot of money using things like Tonic Pow and Relica and some of these other things. So there's an opportunity to stay in the BSV community when you join, and then that's a really different thing than basically any other community. So you can join Solana, you can join Doge, things like that. But Doge doesn't even have a native Doge wallet or a lead developer or even a development team or even its own mining. It is just simply merge mined with Litecoin, which is about the lamest thing you could do in the universe at this point. So, uh, for anybody, please queue up your questions, comments, blessings, cursings, grapes, gripes, gropes. I should really add to that list. There's got to be other things that you can do here on the CoinGeek live stream. Before we cut to the commercial and bring Daniel in, I got a private message, presumably from Alex Moon. Oh, he's making fun of me. That's good. This is a wonderful relationship we have here. So I'm going to thank Alex because he likes to point out that I need to be a little more tough. That I compliment my enemies too much. So Alex, you're both handsome and talented, and I'm very grateful for everything you do for the CoinGeek live stream. And let's cut to commercial because I'm about to lose my marbles here because really one of my very favorite people is going to be the guest today, and I'm excited about it. So, Alex.
Data is one of the world's most valuable commodities. Tech giants and institutions have become richer by collecting and selling data. Data has the power to liberate, but has been used to manipulate. Data should be used to improve interoperability while securing privacy. Data sovereignty is most powerful when ownership is restored to individuals. But how can we speed up the flow of information while also empowering everyone to be more private, secure, and free? Join us at CoinGeek Zurich and learn how the Bitcoin SV blockchain ignites the power of data.
Hello, Daniel.
Hey, Kurt. What a great introduction. Thanks a lot for inviting me on the live stream.
For sure. Can I get your permission to refer to you as my dear old friend?
Sure. And yeah, you're my friend too. And I didn't know you were reading my articles from before I was even in Bitcoin. But yeah, I had some stuff that was published on the Mises Institute.
Yeah.
And recently, that stuff has been archived on the BSV blockchain. I didn't get a link ready for it.
I didn't even know that. That's awesome to hear.
I've archived all of my stuff on chain now. So, and there's an important article from that time called "How the Free Market Works," and that basically explains the Austrian theory of the economy, and it goes through everything in a short article that would normally take an Austrian economist 1,000 pages. And that's what I've been trying to explain to people for the last 10 years in Bitcoin, but we're still on people are still struggling with the first few things, the first couple of sentences that I would want to explain to them about economics.
I think one of my favorite things that you talk about is like opportunity cost and money, like how you actually measure money. And you just today, I think it was this morning, your interview with Michael Wehrman, your written interview there, posted, and in that he quoted you. He quoted on Twitter actually, which is what got me to read the article. Was talking about the like the opportunity cost, the speculative nature of holding fiat currency, and I think that's something that people don't consider. They're not thinking about the devaluation of their fiat because it's the measuring stick that they're used to. But maybe you can touch on that a little bit. Like, what is the opportunity cost of holding fiat currency? And then I'd like to bounce it to a more Bitcoin related question.
Yeah, well, first of all, in Austrian economics, all costs are opportunity costs. So that means that when you think of the downside to anything, it's always what else you could have done that you cannot do because you did something. So, you have a certain amount of hours in the day, and there's only so much you can fit in. So the cost of watching a TV show might be going out and taking a walk, or reading a book, or anything else you could have done. See, so when you think about the ideal portfolio, what you want is to minimize costs, or you want to maximize the difference between value and costs. So value is what you're going to get eventually, and cost is what you're losing because you invested in one thing over another. And so the cost of holding money, or of having savings, is that you could spend it, or that you could invest it in something that earns interest, like a stock or a bond. So the cost of holding cash is income or consumption. And so, like, to me, people in Bitcoin are kind of like people in a business who don't know what the bottom line is, because this is sort of like what I'm talking about now is the bottom line, and that's kind of like the most important thing in a business, and people don't know what it is in Bitcoin. So so yeah, well, I'm glad we're talking about this, because to me, people in BSV are very optimistic about the future prospects of BSV. But to me, like a business that doesn't know about the bottom line isn't doing very well. So I think I think we should figure this stuff out. So I mean, the cost of a so basically, the difference between a money that has inflation versus a money with a fixed supply, like Bitcoin, is that there is more benefit to someone with a longer term time frame. So if you're using so yeah, we talked about the cost of money, but I didn't talk about the benefit of money yet. So the benefit of holding cash is being able to take advantage of new opportunities. So if you're weighing the value, or or if you're weighing the trade-off of buying Bitcoin, what you should think about is what you're losing, which is consumption or income, versus what you're gaining, which is the ability to be first to take advantage of new opportunity. So if there's going to be a lot of new opportunity in Bitcoin, then you would want a lot of Bitcoin relative to hash power. Hash power is kind of like a stock because it earns income. So you can think about the whole economy if you just think about buying hash power versus holding Bitcoin versus consumption. So what was I just talking about? Cost versus benefit. And so fiat is like someone who is standing between everybody, like the central bank, and they close off the path to benefiting from holding cash in the future, because they are they're increasing the supply. So you have to think about how that cash that you have is going to be a smaller fraction of the total economy in the future, if the economy stays the same size. Well, I guess that answers the question, right? I think
For
that
sure.
answers the question.
It does. So I think in regards to BSV, I have a constant barrage of small blockers asking me when I am willing to capitulate due to how much opportunity cost I've had being a BSV holder. And
Oh yeah, because you could have made you could have had a larger net worth as measured in dollars
yes,
if you had had more BTC. Yes.
correct.
But that's not real opportunity cost, because the only way you would actually gain from having that is if you could sell out of BTC before the system is destroyed, which could happen at any time, and we don't really know when.
Absolutely. So well, and my response to that is always like, well, you're missing the opportunity cost of having not had all of your money in Dogecoin because it has outperformed BTC, to which,
Right.
Cognitive dissonance and, screeching. But,
Yeah.
do you think, like, what is a better measuring stick? I really like the concept of time price. So it's how much value can be created in time. Or is BSV just plainly the best measuring stick in your opinion, and why?
Well, I mean, the whole concept of a measuring stick of value is flawed, and people should stop believing that they can have something like that. So, Bitcoin is not a measuring stick of value because the value of the coin relative to the total economy will change. And I mean, it does with fiat too, but they're always saying that we have to keep it stable, but that's a scam. There's no such thing as a stable value, because over time the economy changes, not just quantitatively but qualitatively, because there are different goods and things. So you can't really say what is the same value over different times. Over longer times it gets more difficult, but so I mean, over really short times you can kind of do that, but over big times you can't. And so instead, what people should think of money as a shared concept of efficiency, and that is how Ludwig von Mises thought about money. I mean, that's one of the ways that he thought about money. That's one of the things that he thought of that's important about it anyway. And so what Mises said is, when we get rid of capital markets, as in a socialist economy, we do not have a shared concept of efficiency anymore. So what happens is we have an economy where nothing is efficient, because we don't know what efficiency is. So money is not a measuring stick. It is a concept, a shared concept of efficiency. So if you do something and you end up with more Bitcoins than you started with, then that is efficient. And if you do end up with less, then that's inefficient. And different monies are competing concepts of efficiency. So what we have with a fixed supply in Bitcoin is we have a reason for people to think farther out into the future, insofar as how are they going to try to find value? They can think farther ahead because they're not constantly losing value. So if we've got dollars, it's efficient to think. It's efficient to have short-term thinking, because you lose if you have long-term thinking. Well, you lose relative to if we were using Bitcoin anyway. I mean, it's still good to be a long-term thinker. It's just not as good.
Well, and that begs the question. I mean, the thesis about exiting the dollar and using Bitcoin as a way to store value away from that inflation seems very simple and practical. Like, is that a valuable thesis to move every dollar that you can spare into Bitcoin? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I think you have to think about where the opportunity is likely to be. So, I mean, I think that over time, the Bitcoin economy is going to grow, or it's going to grow a lot easier than the dollar economy. But I mean, right now, the dollar economy is a lot bigger than the Bitcoin economy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, because of that, I don't think that you should, I mean, not investment advice, but I don't think that you would want to put everything in BSV, because I mean, really, like, the best portfolio is kind of like the right proportion of everything. And there's going to be some opportunity in the dollar economy, and some in the Bitcoin economy. It's just over time, I think there's going to be a lot more in the Bitcoin economy. But I mean, there's also potential problems from not being prepared for not being prepared to have enough dollars either. So
we have an interesting question here from Stella Winston. I'm not sure I even understand the question, but please explain inverted hash as a measure of value. I'm not sure what inverted hash means.
An inverted hash would be something that is supposed to be impossible for cryptography, a completely inverted hash, because that would mean that you give me a number and I create a document which hashes to that number. So you're not supposed to be able to do that in cryptography. I mean,
just doing the steps backwards, essentially.
Yeah. So, that what I was talking about was just one instance, like inverting one hash. But yeah, that would be even worse if you found a general way of inverting the hash function.
Sure.
So it's supposed to be exponentially, like the odds of inverting a hash are supposed to be exponentially suppressed. So meaning that the number for each additional bit in the hash, it takes twice as many trials to invert the hash. But we can have a partially inverted hash, which means that we have some constraints on the hash. So you could say, give me a document whose hash has the first byte is all zeros.
Yeah.
So the first byte of the hash is 0, and then that is and the rest of the hash can be anything, and the odds of that are 1 out of 256. So that's pretty easy. I could do that because I can afford to do 256 trials on a cheap computer. And you could do a lot more than that. You could have a worse constraint than that.
Yeah.
And a partially inverted hash is not a measure of value either. Really, a partially inverted hash can be used to make a claim about value, not necessarily a true claim, but it would be it's in your incentive to make a correct assessment of value. So if somebody is giving you a partially, if I'm giving you a document with a partially that was created by partially inverting a hash, what my optimal strategy would be to correctly provide the value of the information in the document based on the degree to which the hash was constrained. And that's the handicap principle. it's just like how the peacock's tail is as big as the peacock can afford it to be.
Sure.
So if it's too big, then that's too much resources that aren't going into his body. So that's too much. Like he can't live well if the tail is too big. He
Right.
has a scrawny body.
Yeah.
But if the tail is too small, then he doesn't get enough attention from females. So there's a trade-off between attention versus versus living well now.
Sure.
Or getting fatter, right?
Right.
So you could be a fat peacock that gets no female attention, or you could be a scrawny peacock who gets more attention than you know what to do with. And well, there's bad attention too, because the other male peacocks can also see that, and so they're going to try to fight with you. And if you're not strong enough, then they're going to win, and that doesn't work out either. So the opportunity cost of partially inverting a hash is being fatter. But the opportunity cost of not doing the handicap is attention. And the reason you get attention is because it's rational to be honest. And so Graffin showed that rational females pay no attention to males with no advertisement. So what that means is that everybody is irrational right now, because everybody is. We don't have an advertisement that is associated with a. We just don't have a very honest signal right now. So it's like everybody is paying attention to people with no advertisement instead of not paying attention to anybody without an advertisement.
Sure. I get it. Distinct but crucial.
Yeah.
Question here from Bits Complicated. Daniel, which is more apt as an analogy? Thinking of money as a transfer of energy or a transfer of memory, or are they both really the same thing?
Well, I would say that it is neither. And I would say what is being transferred is opportunity. So it's always about, I mean, you wouldn't want money if you didn't think you were going to be able to spend it on something in the future. So I would say history is past oriented. So that's not what you want. What you want is something in the future. And so if you're giving somebody money, you're giving them opportunity. You're giving them the ability to take anything they want out of the future economy.
Okay.
And I mean, I don't think that they're the same as energy, or I don't think money is energy.
But isn't everything
because
energy?
What?
Isn't everything energy, or no?
Well, yeah, okay. Yeah, everything physical is energy. I guess I would say money is an idea, so it has there have to be records somewhere that are physical, but money is not energy, because energy is constantly being produced and consumed, whereas the amount of money is fixed, or ideally it would be. So I guess I do have a physics analogy for money. I think money is like mass, and so mass is a form of energy, but it's not all energy. And mass is the it's like the gravitational charge. So mass is a conserved quantity. Well, it is in Newtonian physics. It's not in, but close enough. I mean, there's gravity is associated with conserved charges that are related to mass, but really it's the stress energy tensor. But mass is it's close enough. So mass is like the gravitational charge, and I mean, it's kind of like how I say Bitcoin is a black hole. So that's what happens when all of the mass comes together into one system that sucks everything in. So that's kind of like saying the whole economy is going to be running on Bitcoin eventually. The whole world economy is going to get sucked into Bitcoin.
And is that possible? You mentioned like we don't really have honest signals right now, but eventually we fall into this black hole. And like, I love that. First of all, they're good analogies, but second of all, it's what I hope to see in the world. But is it possible to get proof of work high enough and distributed enough and focused on the right things to create a world that's possible? Or are we just too screwed up? Are we too imperfect to have such a world?
Well, I mean, okay, that's going to lead us into the topic that I actually wanted to talk about, because what I think is that people in Bitcoin are the next stage of human evolution, and the next level of human evolution is people who can think about cooperation on a global scale. So right now, most of the people don't know how to do that, and they're just scammed into things that are not cooperative. Okay, but when the ability to understand what is cooperative is a survival trait. So people who do understand this are going to have more children than those who don't. So the future world is going to have more people like us. And so then people will be less imperfect. So, I think that people now are kind of adapted to small tribes. And we've had a massive change in the human environment over time scales that are much shorter than evolution normally operates. So people around the world are just running around acting like they still think they're hunter-gatherers. And they don't understand the new environment that they're in very well. And that's how they get tricked, because their instincts are wrong. I mean, they're wrong for the environment we're in now. And so anyway, the new species is Homo bitcoinus. So you should watch my video on that.
One of my favorites.
But I mean, I think that like a small group of people can do a lot of good if they maximize their effect. So, I mean, this is something that's been kind of frustrating me about what I've been trying to work on, because I feel like I keep talking about things that maximize success a lot more than what we're doing now. And people don't act like they want to do it. You know what I mean? So it's just like I've been saying, like Bitcoin is kind of like a business where people don't know what the bottom line is. So like, why don't we understand what the bottom line is, and then make sure that everything we do is focused on the bottom line, like a real business that's actually successful. And so another thing is, like, right now we have a really bad labor shortage in Bitcoin. And so we can optimize the use of labor with a proof of work signaling system, which is what I've been trying to build. And I just, it's been very hard for me to, like, whenever I talk about it, it's like people just don't understand what it's good for, when really it's like the most successful thing we could be doing, and everyone's trying to do something other than that. Like, really, what would be better than optimizing the use of labor?
Right.
But like, really, like, if we had a proof of work signaling system that we could use in just arbitrary ways, then the entire economy would be more profitable, because people would be making fewer entrepreneurial errors, because they would have
Right.
the better ideas about what is good beforehand. So anyway, so, well, can we get to my notes now? Because we're over
Please.
halfway through and I haven't even got started.
Let's do it.
Okay, so like the first thing I wanted to talk about is, some people think that I'm a philosopher.
You come across as philosophical.
Yeah, but I'm really an economist. Philosophy is just what I do in my spare time. So
Cool.
economics is what actually makes me useful around here.
Yeah.
But so philosophy, that's just, so, you know, a while back I made a bunch of videos and I did a lot of storytelling.
Mhm.
And that was because I was trying to find people who weren't brainwashed.
Yeah.
But like, what's actually useful that I can do is economics.
Mhm.
And so far, I mean, this is another thing that seems crazy to me about Bitcoin. It seems like people don't want to think about economics, even though that's kind of like what everything we're doing is all about.
Yeah, exactly.
So to me, economics should really be like the first thing, should be the first thing we talk about with regard to anything. But anyway, so in inclusive fitness.
Mhm.
So let's talk about that. So let's explain what that means. So if let's say that we were brothers.
Mhm.
Okay, what that means is that we share 50% of our genetic variation. And that means that if you were to take everything that makes me different from the average person,
Mhm.
and everything that makes you different from the average person, and we put them on top of each other, there would be a 50% overlap, or we would expect a 50% overlap.
Sure.
So what that means is, and you also have a 50% overlap with your children.
Right.
And you have a 25% overlap with your siblings' children. So
Right.
your nephews and nieces, they share a 25% variation with you, and it just it goes down by half as you go farther out by one family member. I'm not sure what we would call that, but
one step across the tree. Yeah, I
yeah,
get it.
right. Yeah, so it just goes down by half each time you go one more person farther away.
Mhm.
So what that means is that so if we were brothers, what that would mean is every 2 children you have, from my perspective, is as good as me having 1 child.
Okay.
From my, well, if I'm trying to maximize fitness.
Genetic dispersion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So so that, I mean, that's a pretty good deal, because then I don't even have to raise them. See what I mean?
Yes, I do. As a father losing sleep on a sliding scale, yes.
Okay, so like, so if we were brothers, because of that connection, you would actually be able to get free stuff out of me, or not necessarily, just you would be able to get me to do things for you for free. Like if you needed babysitting sometime,
Yeah.
like you might not need to pay me to do it,
Right.
because like effort that is invested in your children is promoting my DNA.
Right.
See? So if we
Yeah.
were brothers,
Yes.
so that's inclusive fitness. That's that's what it means. That's like that's like everything that makes your DNA more viable. That doesn't
Right.
just include you, that includes everyone related to you to different
Right.
degrees.
Mm-hmm.
So, so okay. Oh, okay. So when Richard Dawkins wrote The Selfish Gene, that's what he was talking about. What he was saying is that if the gene is selfish, then the individual is altruistic.
Okay.
Because a selfish gene is distributed in many individuals, right? So the gene can be like, I'm going to make all of these individuals benefit each other, and that's good for me.
Sure.
So everybody really liked the idea of the selfish gene, but nobody knew what it meant.
Yeah.
That's what it means. So Richard Dawkins wrote another book called The Extended Phenotype, and that means the same thing. The extended what Dawkins is saying is that the expression of a gene, which is the phenotype, is really more like a family than an individual, because the gene is distributed over the family. Okay? So we've got the same, we've got a similar thing going on with money. So when we all use the same money, that's like we all have the same gene. It's like that in the sense that we all benefit from each other's benefit.
Sure. Makes sense.
Okay? So to me, that's sort of like the most important thing to understand about the success of Bitcoin. And so what I would like to see is everything we're doing just kind of related to that somehow. But so far, that's, I still think people are very distracted by things that are less important than like the most fundamental thing about the value of money.
For sure.
So like when you have money, you're invested in the other people, because they're the ones who give you opportunity, right? I mean, remember I said the value is about new opportunity. So it's going to be the people who want to earn that money who are going to give you opportunity.
Right.
So when you have money, your selfishness is to improve everybody. So to be altruistic. Does that make sense? You're muted.
My bad. I can hear my wife walking above me. I didn't want to have everybody listen to her like marching and doing dishes.
Oh, well, okay. Well, But anyway, um, like when you get into Bitcoin, it's like you're moving from a situation where your selfishness is to think about yourself to one where your selfishness is to think about a much bigger group of people. And that's because fiat money isn't very good for creating a shared benefit. In fact, they're never going to let deflation happen. They're going to say, they always say deflation is evil. So they cut off all opportunities to benefit from an increase in the value of the fiat money.
Sure.
Whereas that isn't cut off in Bitcoin. And the reason that Bitcoin would go up, at least if people were being rational, which eventually they have no choice, the reason it would go up is that it's people observe that the group of Bitcoiners is more cooperative. In other words, they're creating more opportunity for each other.
But are they? You know, I mean, when you think about it now, I mean, we've got a few hundred years of data on the fiat economy cooperating to create all of this. You know, our ability to communicate over the internet, for example. And while like there's so much imperfection, like the government meddling and all of these things in the creation of the internet and all of this, but we are benefiting from that right now. Whereas if you look at the inefficiency right now in the BSV economy, like we're not cooperating that well, even with such great incentives there in BSV. So what do you, is this a time preference thing or what is the issue there?
I mean, I think that what it is people are way too optimistic about Bitcoin's success right now. So we need to get a lot more efficient. That's kind of the point. Like in order to make like Bitcoin's success would happen because Bitcoiners are better cooperators.
Sure.
Okay. So I mean, that's what we need to do. And like so far, it's like it's for most of the time in Bitcoin, like nothing that people have been doing has actually been focused on that idea at all.
Right.
Okay,
well, why do you think that is? Just in real, 30 seconds. Why do you think that is? Just general stupidity, lack of fitness.
I don't know. That's a tough one. I mean, I think that it just has to do with, I mean, I think Bitcoin does have a lot of very real potential that people have seen, but like right now we need to ask, how are we going to realize that potential, and how well are we actually doing that?
Right.
So like the market has been so exuberant that people haven't really been asking about that very much.
Yeah.
So, okay, you were just saying like Dogecoin doesn't even have a lead developer, and I didn't even know that. That's pretty, I mean, Dogecoin is, I think, the only coin that people in BSV can really learn something from, because I think that they have a cooperative system. But it's not like an economy. It's more like they just have a shared identity. But like it would be good if we had something like what they were doing, except that it was an actual economy. So not just like the idea of each other, but like actually doing things for each other.
Sure. It's
Well,
reasonable.
okay, so I guess I'm going to go back to your previous question, because I did think of something. I mean, there's a lot of potential benefit just to bringing new people in the short
Mhm.
term. So
Sure.
like these coin economies can grow just by attracting new people, even if nobody is actually doing anything. But that makes sense. You know, it does make sense, because with just more people, that means more stuff will be happening, even if it's almost nothing. But
Sure. It's
I
like
think
being a
that
slightly fatter peacock.
yeah, I mean, I think that it's would be better to stop focusing on people outside and trying to attract them in, and to focus more on just focus on each other, and act as if the Bitcoin economy will never grow by attracting new people. Like, to me, that's sort of like that would be a lot more successful.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
so um, well, do we have any more questions?
Man, there's a pile of questions coming in. People are here we go. Would boosting NFTs make them more transparent or valuable?
uh, uh, Boost is just about gaining attention. So it gives a rational, like, there's like, so for all of the proof of work uh, upvoted content, there's one audience, and you basically get to buy the attention of that audience, and the
Yep.
price is just in relation to what else is already there. So there's a there's there's an audience that exists somewhere, and there's competition for their attention, and you get as much attention as you want from them for the right price. That's
Yep.
really, that's all it's about. It's just about, and you're not buying attention. You're giving them a rational reason to pay attention.
Sure.
So like attention, well, I mean, how can you like, you can buy attention if it's like from somebody whose job it is to, you know, give you some kind of service or something. But with Boost, it's like, just have a look at this idea. So I'm not asking for some particular service from people that I would pay for. Just, I think you would want to see this. And so you give them a rational reason by showing that that energy was consumed. So that's how they
Right.
apportion their attention, is
Sure.
whoever they it's sort of like the first round is pay attention in proportion to proof of work.
Yep.
And then after that, if you want to give things another look, then that will be based on whether you thought what you saw deserves another look. So right now it's sort of like we don't have this first round of
Right.
competition for
Interesting.
content. We just have a thing where you just have to read the content before you know anything about it. Whereas with a proof of work upvote, we would know that we would know about energy that was spent to gain attention.
Sure. So let's talk about Attila's NFT protocol, because I think it was really interesting that he put in the idea that you can lock an amount of Satoshis into the NFT itself. He used the phrase a price floor. So if you lock in 2,000 Satoshis, then that NFT could never be less than the value of 2,000 Satoshis. So is that a more simple to understand model for like the amount of proof of work that got into something. I know this is kind of what Craig responded to the idea of boost as well, as like, why not just use Satoshis to give that signal? So why proof of work instead of just a simple amount of sats?
Because, well, money isn't the same as energy. So money is just a shared idea.
Mm-hmm.
So if you spend money, that's not really losing anything.
Yeah.
It's like the opportunity cost of money is whatever the economy is going to produce, and who knows what that is. But the opportunity cost of energy is something that everyone is familiar with from things that are just right around them wherever they are.
Sure.
So I don't think it's not the same thing at all. And what Attila was doing doesn't have anything to do with honest signaling. Oh, this is another topic that we were going to talk about. You just reminded me, but it has to do with zero Satoshi outputs.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the reason you would have a zero Satoshi output is because the output represents some kind of token or something.
Sure.
And the problem with the zero Satoshi output is that you are not relying on Bitcoin for double spend protection anymore.
Right.
So you have to have the history of the token in order to verify that there was not a double spend, because the miners don't know what this token is, and the rules of Bitcoin do not constrain you from double spending this token, because from the miner's perspective it is just an empty output. And and so you can have a definition of this token protocol that says what a minting transaction looks like, and so on. And you can say, like, you always go with anyway, you can have rules that say how the token has been transferred for whatever transactions get produced. But in order to know that the history is valid, you need to go back to the minting transaction, or you need somebody to say, to affirm that the history is okay, who is not a Bitcoin miner, or well, maybe he is a Bitcoin miner, but that's just a separate service from the Bitcoin service. But what you can do is you can use a colored coin, and then you can have Bitcoin's native double spend protection as part of the token protocol. So you can create a transaction that requires any subsequent transactions to satisfy certain constraints. So you can say that you have to use the same script that I used in any future transactions. It's just kind of like how the GNU license is like a virus, because it says you have to keep adding the GNU license every time you make your own copy, and you have to always make the source code available and stuff like that. So you can kind of do that with Bitcoin, and you can have a transaction that can only be spent if the next transaction satisfies certain constraints. And you can build a token protocol around that idea. And Attila got his idea from what he had heard about the STAS token protocol, but he says that he never actually read the STAS white paper. So he wanted to so he wanted to not copy the same protocol.
Sure.
He wanted to make sure that it was his design.
Well, and both are similar to colored coins, or the proposal for colored coins, which I don't think ever actually existed. It was never more than a proposal. I don't think, was it?
But they are both colored coins, but they also have this other thing I was talking about that's called op push TX, and we can use that to make these constraints. Yeah. And Attila's version can do a lot more because it has split and merge, so it can do NFTs, but you can also have tokens that you take apart and put back together again, or you can have a sum, just like how you can split Bitcoin into two different outputs and then merge them together again into one output later. And the colored coin is like charge. So we said Satoshis are like mass before. I think that the colored coin is like charge, like the electromagnetic charge or something. Because all of those particles also have mass. You can't not have mass, but you can also have charge in physics.
Sure.
But also going back to proof of work, so everybody needs to signal fitness. The Bitcoin miners need to signal fitness as part of making Bitcoin work, but everybody needs to signal fitness for all kinds of other purposes. And I don't know. I just think it's kind of I don't see why people would say you can just do that with money, because you can't. It's just.
Well, I think people see both as opportunity cost. I mean, I can see that. Like me doing chores versus paying someone to do chores are both, a loss of either my time now or my previous time. Like money just represents previous time that I have spent working.
Yeah, but I mean, if you burn $100 bill, that's not the same thing as if you
like doing $100 worth of work for free or something.
$100 worth of free energy into heat.
Sure.
That's lost. The lost free energy is something that's actually lost, and that means that machines cannot run because that was lost. You have to get more energy from somewhere else. If you burn $100 bills, or if you burn $100 bill, that doesn't change the goods that exist in the economy.
So are we just being like too heavily subsidized by the inertia of existing infrastructure, plus all of the socialism that exists, but primarily the inertia of existing infrastructure, so that we don't actually feel the need to work in order to create value?
What do you mean?
Well, I think people are confused by like signaling with proof of work, because so many of us get to like, to a child, they get to go to school for what feels free to them because it's subsidized by the culture at large. And then they get clothes from their parents. And this is why it's difficult for like a teenager, for example, to get good at working a job, because all of a sudden, their subsidy is starting to dry up. And I feel like it takes somebody that's had to experience the loss of the general subsidy of life to even understand why proof of work has value, because they start to realize that the free time that they had previously was actually somebody else's work repurposed onto their benefit. But, you talk about Boost, and I know Boost is very obvious to you because the proof of work is sensible. Like it makes a lot of practical sense on paper, but I feel like we have such a proof of stake subsidized mindset as a culture that maybe it just doesn't fit. It's like a square peg in a round hole to people that they just can't deal with it because there's so much.
So remember, a small number of people can change the world. So, the world is screwed up, but if we can get a small number of people who are not so screwed up, who want to do things a different way, they can create a lot more value a lot more quickly.
Sure.
And they will benefit more than the people who don't want to do things that way.
Right.
I mean, this is just like let's go to a hypothetical time that didn't really happen, but like imagine if we had peacocks before they evolved the tail. Okay, so all of the male peacocks who are not, like, we would start out where there was like one peacock who started to grow the tail, and all of the other male peacocks would be saying, why are you doing that? That's a stupid thing to do. But eventually all of the male peacocks would have the tail because the one who started it benefits more from using it. And the same with his children and their children, and there's additional benefit to be had as long as there are other peacocks around who are not maximizing value.
Right.
So I mean, there's a big opportunity in being, some of the first people to start using proof of work correctly, or the way that I think will work. So I claim that there's an opportunity there. I mean, I think that if you go through the economics of what I've said about it, it's obvious that there is an opportunity there. But if you wanted to actually do it, you would have to convince yourself that the opportunity is real. You shouldn't just do it because I would say so. But I mean, like right now, what I really need is some of these people who want to be like the first peacock who grew the tail.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
No, it's interesting. Well, and I bring this up too because there's so much, like, people are talking about the subsidies right now in the culture. I mean, like, Joe Biden was on TV the other day, like, telling people, like, hey, if you get a job that will pay you, you need to take that job. We can't have you on welfare forever because we have such a problem of people that are making more money off the dole than they ever need.
Did Joe Biden say that?
Yeah, it was. I saw it go by on Twitter, where he was saying that there's an epidemic of people that are turning down viable work because the work doesn't pay them as much as various stimulus checks and all these different things are paying. Well. So we're creating like an increased problem of people getting value without contributing work, and it gets so topsy-turvy that at some point it's going to be really hard to kickstart. And so, like, who's going to be that first peacock that grows the tail, basically, like, goes back to work, creates value, like, leaves the hood or wherever they're at, and, like, just leads the way there. Like, that's a very, I don't know, it's a very weird problem that I think we're going to have a very practical answer for very soon, because it's starting to seem like it's going to be a very real problem.
I mean, the populations of predator and prey follow cycles. So right now we're at a stage where the predator population is at a maximum, but they can't maintain their population when they're killing all of the prey. Right. So they're going to reduce the prey population, and then they're just not going to have enough food. So they're going to reduce their population. Yep. And so then the prey animals will be able to start growing the economy again.
Right. Sure. Interesting. Well, and it's just like, people talking about sustainable farming as if capitalists would just destroy all of their own ability to make food, and then we all starve to death because nobody planned for the next season or whatever.
Well, if we really wanted sustainable stuff, we wouldn't need predators. So, but yeah, people don't. I don't think people are very good at. Well, there's a time frame, right? There's a time frame that people think over. So, and there are differences in people in terms of how far ahead into the future they think.
Yeah.
And so, like when we have a change where people become more present oriented, so they were thinking about the future a lot before, and now they're thinking about it a lot less. What happens is all of the capital goods of the economy get used up without being replaced.
Yeah.
So there is an initial splurge, and like mainstream economists will, I don't know if they really know anything, but they'll say that that's great because they're like, people are getting to consume a lot. That's good. The economy's growing, but it's not growing.
This is like economists pointing to the stock market and saying, see, the economy's healthy, and they're only looking at stock prices. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like that. Yeah. And so then so everybody is living high off the hog, but all of our tools are not being replaced. So we're losing productive capacity in the future. So we become more present oriented, and we increase consumption for a while, but after we've gone past our own time horizon from before, then we can't produce as much anymore because we just weren't thinking about this time when before we weren't thinking about it, so we didn't prepare for it, and now we can't produce as much. So so that's kind of what's been happening in the world, is we've been becoming more and more present oriented, and what we need is to be more future oriented. And so right now there's a whole class of people who don't want people to be more future oriented, because if they were, they would realize that this class of people is actually useless and not really contributing anything.
Yeah.
And as long as people don't have time to think about it, then they're doing okay. But people, I think people who want to be the next stage of human evolution, they just have to figure out how to be more future oriented. Like you can't control what other people do, so you have to figure out how you can be a more future oriented person under these conditions. And then after the predator population dies out from killing off all the prey population, hopefully you've survived that, and then you're all set for actually doing good things.
Sure. So we're at about an hour and 15 minutes now. And if this goes much longer, nobody will rewatch it just because people are lazy and foolish. But let's do some rapid fire questions. So quick questions, quick answers. Got from TOG Tog, serious question for Kurt and Daniel. Even ignoring the Satoshi claims that are not helping. How does BSV go against MasterCard, Silicon Valley, and the banksters that choose BTC and Ethereum?
Well, the real Bitcoin offers a service called Byzantine fault tolerance, and double spend protection is, I mean, that's mainly what Bitcoin is supposed to do. And double spend protection is a subset of Byzantine fault tolerance. But on top of Bitcoin, you can create more Byzantine fault tolerance. You can pretty much get anything. Well, and what Byzantine fault tolerance means is that all honest actors agree and cannot be prevented from agreeing by from the actions of traders, or from circumstance, because they're distributed over space, so they can also disagree because they don't know enough about what everybody else is doing fast enough. But somebody who's sitting around trying to do a divide and conquer attack will not be successful in a Byzantine fault tolerance system. So BTC does not offer that, and MasterCard does not offer that. And so in the white paper, Satoshi says in the first paragraph that a certain percentage of fraud is accepted as normal, or something like that. So and because, and that's referring to the earlier systems. So before we had Byzantine fault tolerance, we didn't have all honest actors agree, so we have to accept a certain percentage of fraud necessarily. Whereas in Bitcoin, where we do have Byzantine fault tolerance, we don't have to accept a certain percentage of fraud. And that's why, consequently, like, transactions can clear very quickly. So a lot more can happen in the Bitcoin economy than in the credit dollar economy, and the credit BTC economy, which is what MasterCard and PayPal are doing. So essentially, like, when you make a BTC payment, like, it begins with the institutions giving each other an IOU that's going to be cleared eventually on the blockchain. But with the real Bitcoin, we have instant pay. Oh, and so that IOU isn't really good until after it gets paid. So all of their system is built to try to make sure that the IOUs always get paid, but that's a huge cost to making sure that happens, which we just don't have in the real Bitcoin. So we've got we've just got a better service than than PayPal and MasterCard.
Amen. Good answer. HV asking, what is the strongest dominant phenotype of BSV?
I don't know. Probably the Omega male.
Love it. Patrick asking, Daniel, what has you excited about Bitcoin right now? What are you really looking forward to?
Well, I'm really looking forward to having a reliable proof of work service, because then I know that I will be able to buy attention instantly rather than having to build an audience over a long period of time, which is what I had to do before. And that's not what anybody should have to do.
Sure. Daniel, how do you compare BoostPow to other forms of proof of work? For example, a journalist who has 20 years of demonstrated sound and honest output. I want to see what he says, even if he doesn't use Boost.
Yeah. So a reputation is a it is like a handicap because it does demonstrate opportunity cost. Because you could destroy your reputation, and you have to not do that. But it is not a handicap because it's not provable waste, because the reputation does benefit you. Well, and you're not actually destroying anything to create the reputation. Like a handicap is provable waste, and the difference is that you have to ask around to figure out what somebody's reputation is, or you have to investigate them to figure out what their history is. And a handicap can be verified instantaneously, and it doesn't require any outside information. So it's basically like if I'm the peacock, she doesn't have, and I'm talking to the peahen, she doesn't have to investigate my reputation or history. It's just like I'm throwing stuff away right in front of her. So she can't argue with that, can she?
No.
So a reputation is not proof of work in the sense that like a partially inverted hash is. It's not a handicap, and the reason that handicaps are successful in nature is that, well, they save females time, and a reputation does not save you time, because you have to spend time to investigate it. Whereas a handicap is something where you just see it, and then you just have a system that costs almost no time, that tells you what initial amount of attention is it worthwhile to give a bunch of different candidates. So they save female time, and that's why they benefit females, and they benefit males because they ensure that you will get an honest assessment. So if you satisfy the female's proof of work requirement, that means that she's actually going to give you a close inspection and try to understand everything, and evaluate everything about you in light of the whole, and not just try to dismiss you for whatever, because she doesn't have enough time. See what I mean?
I do. No, that makes perfect sense. Another one here from Rick Howard, a frequent questioner on the show. So thanks for your return and your near constant patronage, Mr. Howard. Tough one here. What games does Daniel stream on Twitch?
Mostly I do classic NES games. And
I can confirm.
Well, I kind of got interested in speed running lately, because it's a lot like doing proof of work, because you have to run the same game over and over again until you match a certain difficulty target. And with speed running, the target is the amount of time it takes, and it means that every game becomes arbitrarily difficult. So it doesn't matter how easy the game is. If you start to speed run it, eventually it becomes as difficult as it needs to be, because every amount of time, as you decrease the amount of time, the tricks that you have to learn to decrease the time even more just become more and more difficult, and they just end up having to do with all of the quirks of the game, and knowing every little thing about it, and whatever you can do with it, not just like
Right.
what the developers intended for it.
Sure.
So, I mean, I really think that if we could get some of these speedrunners in Bitcoin, that would really improve things around here. Because to me, Bitcoin is like a game that someone would want to play over and over and over again until it's perfectly optimized.
Sure.
And I think some of those guys would be really good in Bitcoin.
Absolutely.
I wish some of that drive to optimize a completely arbitrary game that's could be adapted to the real life game. I think that would be a lot more fun.
Yeah, I think so too. So any shout outs? Anybody deserve a hello or a thank you before we wrap up?
Well, I don't know. You're putting me on the spot now.
No pressure.
Shout out to Rainer Filmich. He's my hero right now.
I don't know who that is.
He is a lawyer who is suing the World Health Organization.
Cool. I like it. So awesome, Daniel. Thank you so much for your time. I'm gonna rewatch this myself because I think there's a lot of really good information here, and if people would focus on honest signals and creating value, then we wouldn't have to be competing so hard against such bad competitors. So truly, I really
a good point. Yeah, let's all
Absolutely.
compete to contribute to the Bitcoin ecosystem and ignore everybody else. That's
Yes.
going to do more.
Thank goodness. So, but really, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate your friendship and our private conversations and everything else. So thanks again. Where can people find you? Where would you like people to find you?
I'm user24 on Twitch, and check out my YouTube videos. And also there's a few videos I have on Streamanity that are not available on YouTube. So they're cheap though. You do have to pay for them.
Awesome.
But you need to watch all of my Bitcoin stuff videos. Well, at least all of the ones on Streamanity. I didn't copy all of them over, but I mean, my Twitch channel is really boring. I just do it to wind down and talk to my friends and things.
I think they're fun.
Oh yeah, and I invited you on there, and then I didn't notice that you were joining the Zoom call.
No, that's cool. And I think I've been on your Twitch twice, so that would have been the third time. But we'll hopefully as my kids settle down, as my brand new baby becomes a little more reliable with a schedule, I'll be able to do more of that too. So
yeah, send her off to college. That'll help.
Yeah, absolutely. Someday you'll get me before my whole beard turns white.
Yeah.
So
okay, well, yeah, thanks a lot. I had a great time, and it was nice to see you and talk with you. And
likewise.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Sure. No, thank you. Take care. So everybody, then we got the Alex, the double tap. So again, everybody, Daniel was a writer for the Mises Institute. He was I believe a co-founder of the Nakamoto Institute. Most of the phrases that all the people that don't understand Bitcoin use on a regular basis, like hyper Bitcoinization and a lot of the old school stuff, comes from Daniel. So the people that say these things as if they're brilliant don't realize they're quoting a person who fundamentally disagrees with their worldview about Bitcoin, which to me is both hilarious but also tragic in many ways, because there's so much opportunity for us to create value in Bitcoin. And this is what I keep telling you. The purpose of this live stream is to encourage you, the average Bitcoiner, the person who's smart enough to know that Bitcoin exists and is capable of incredible things. You should be building businesses. You should be building powerful relationships, more closely intertwined networks, and places where you can share good ideas. And so that good ideas can become good businesses, so that they become profit so that your life becomes better. And as your life becomes better, you can focus on creating an increasing number of valuable things with that time. And ultimately, we're talking about doing this so that our children, our grandchildren, and so on have this opportunity to then do the same thing themselves. We're talking about a truly purpose-driven life here, where everything that we do creates value for the people around us, and then we get to benefit. We benefit in ways that we can call profit. So these are the hard assets that we can accumulate, but also the profit in joy or the experience of love with other people. And if we can get all this drama out of the way, all this silly stuff that we waste time on, then we can enjoy our lives the way that we see fit. And if incentives realign in such a way, well, we can be more free, we can be more sovereign, we can own our own data, our own identities, and we don't have to worry about all of these problems. If our enemies are forced to interface with us through proof of work, well, goodness, that's a world that I would love to live in. So please like, subscribe, love your comments, love the troll box. But as you share these videos, let people know that, hey, we're here talking about big ideas. We really, truly care about changing the world for the better in BSV. And truly, we are the only community that has the tools to actually keep the promises that everybody hears from the blockchain space. And it's something that the world deserves to know more about. So please, and thank you, but please, please do that. Please share the videos around. Let them know that every Tuesday at 1 o'clock Central Standard Time, I am here to do these shows. I think maybe we'll do an AMA next week. Oh, and a little announcement about Mr. Satoshi. He's on vacation this week, but next week he said he would give away one whole BSV in a wallet. So make sure you come back next week. You'll be able to sweep a wallet for one whole BSV, and that will be really awesome. So again, thank you to everybody. And I'm going to say hi to my wife and my son, Ronan, and my little daughter, Molly, who I'm excited to go spend a little bit of time with. Thanks again, everybody. This has been the CoinGeek Weekly live stream. Kurt, out.
Data is one of the world's most valuable commodities. Tech giants and institutions have become richer by collecting and selling data. Data has the power to liberate, but has been used to manipulate. Data should be used to improve interoperability while securing privacy. Data sovereignty is most powerful when ownership is restored to individuals. But how can we speed up the flow of information while also empowering everyone to be more private, secure, and free? Join us at CoinGeek Zurich and learn how the Bitcoin SV blockchain ignites the power of data.